a new invigorated platform from which we can lead the world. A platform that rests on a core of a strong, vibrant, growing economy. For without that, nothing is possible. An economy not built on a bubble, a housing bubble, or the dot-com bubble of the 90s, but an economy built on a new and firm foundation, like the one our parents and grandparents provided after World War II. Economy predicated on the notion that those who are responsible for the increase in our productivity would benefit from the wealth that it created. Unions, hard-working people. So folks, I know we probably upset even some of you. I imagine you've heard, and maybe a few have even said, why are they trying to do so much? My response is, how could we do any less? What would you have us not do? That's why we've invested in our regular budget and the Recovery Act. Well over $100 billion in education. That's why we rewarded those public schools that have beefed up their curricula, challenged their students. That's why we've made a historic commitment to community colleges, $24 billion. That's why we've increased access to college for all those who are qualified to go. That's why we're investing in technology to computerize healthcare records, saving hundreds of billions of dollars over the years. That's why we continue to invest in research and development at NIH and at the laboratories. That's why we're on the verge of passing healthcare that will deliver on the promise made by Harry Truman. That's why we've made an unprecedented commitment to renewable energy, an electric grid to carry it across the nation, a significant investment in new technologies for automobiles that can go 100 miles per gallon, high-speed rail that will take millions of automobiles off the road. In each of these areas, all our investment is in the nation is the down payment. It's the seed money, which is generating hundreds of billions of dollars in private investment in broadband technology, high-speed rail, smart grid, wind, solar, biofuels, electric automobiles, and so much more. We believe in the free enterprise system, adequately regulated, taken out of the hands of the cowboys of Wall Street and doing what it's intended to do, generate capital and growth. And that's why, and Chet knows this, we've talked about it, that's why, although I've been around a long time, as I left the Senate after being elected for my 7th term, the Senate historian, I think, thought was doing me a favor, and he said, "Senator, do you realize only 17 men in the history of the United States have ever served as long as you have?" And I thought, oh my God, I can't be that old. But the truth of the matter is, including when I was 29 years old and elected to the Senate, I have never been as excited. I have never been as optimistic. I've never been more certain about America's ability to control its future, to deliver for its people, and once again, lead the world by the example of our power, not the power, by the power of our example, and not by the example of our power. We have the ability to do this. You know, when I was campaigning here a few years ago, and a year ago, many of you heard me say time and again, I say, just imagine what we can do with a new smart grid that unites the country and transmit the winds of the plains to the cities of the Midwest, the sunlight of the Southwest, generating energies for the coast, cars that can go 100 miles to the gallon. Well, folks, you don't have to imagine anymore. It's already begun. In 10 short months, they're erecting windmills on the continental shelf that are going to light the coastline. It's already begun. Within 3 months after a General Motors plant in the East closing, eliminating the final 1,900 UAW jobs, an electric car company purchased that plant, hiring 2,000 UAW workers, generating 3,000 jobs in California, generating jobs in Michigan where they make the batteries, producing a vehicle that already can go 100 miles to the gallon. Folks, I could go on. We don't have to imagine, but we must persevere. We must continue to take on the special interest groups. We must continue to invest in change. And I know we're going to do this without virtually any Republican help. And it's sad, for real. It's sad. At every turn, they've said no. I know what they're against, but I, honest to God, do not know what they're for. I do not know what they're for. What would they have done? Would they have let hundreds of thousands of Americans fall into that black abyss by not extending unemployment benefits? Would they have allowed millions of people who rely on Medicaid because the states could not sustain it, not to help the states? What would they have done? Ladies and gentlemen, I know what they're against, as I said. But trying to figure out why are they doing this? And I'm being serious when I say this. I think there's only two things that it could be. Either they want to return to the failed policies of the Bush-Cheney administration, or they think their only path to success is our failure. I know of no other reason. There may be one. I'm prepared to stand to be corrected. But I think it's important to remind ourselves, why did we all invest in this? Why did you all work so hard? Why are you continuing to be here supporting candidates like the governor and others? Why are we in this? Because sometimes we get so wrapped up in the politics of politics, we sometimes take our eye off the ball. I'll tell you why Barack and I are in this, and I mean this sincerely. I spend on average 3 to 4 hours a day with him. I have lunch with him alone once a week. We've become friends. I know what makes this guy tick. We're in it for a simple proposition: to give hard-working Americans just a fighting chance to realize their hopes and aspirations, to grow the middle class and diminish the conflict, the prospects of conflict around the world. That's why we're in it. As I've said many times, and some of you, I apologize for repeating it, heard me say it for the last 2 years, we will measure our success as an administration not based on whether the GDP is growing at 6 or even 8%. We will measure it based on one thing. We'll judge our success on whether or not the middle class is larger when we leave office than it was when we entered office. Whether or not those aspiring to the middle class had a chance to get in. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of Americans are hurting. And they're going to continue to hurt for a while. With all the progress we've made, we have a long way to go. But I'm certain we're on the right path.